Hello and welcome to this podcast. My name is Rachel, and today we're going to be focusing on an article that I have written about the evolution of public art in Northern Ireland, as well as the role that this has played in reconciling differences in the area, particularly in the aftermath of the Troubles. So I thought I'd just begin by exploring why I chose to focus on this topic opposed to other post-conflict communities. Principally, it's because I myself have a connection to Northern Ireland, with my mum coming from Derry or Londonderry, depending on who you speak to, and a number of my family members still living there. So as a result of this, I have spent at least a week or two every year in this part of the world for as long as I can remember. I've always found myself conscious of the region's history, even when I was little, not just because of my family's attempts to explain the conflict to me and the impact that it has had on them and their experiences and the extended family, but also through the physical reminders of the Troubles throughout the city. By this, I am specifically referring to the murals which can be found when walking around the city, but also other works of public art such as the Peace Bridge. So when I came to write this article for GenZs about a post-conflict community, I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to dive deeper into a period of time connected to my own family's personal history. I began by thinking primarily about the evolution of murals in the city that my mother grew up in and which I have had the privilege to visit many times. But my research then spread to look not just at murals but sculptures and architecture, not just in Derry either, but across Northern Ireland, specifically Belfast. A little bit of background to the Troubles is that this was a period of Northern Ireland's history between roughly the early 1960s to 1998, which is seen as the official end to the conflict with the signing of the Good Friday Agreement. It was a conflict which, on very basic terms, was between generally Protestant Unionists who desired to maintain union with the United Kingdom and generally Catholic Nationalists who wanted to join the Republic of Ireland in independence. There was also involvement from a number of other key players, such as the British Army and the Irish Republican Army. And lasting around 3 decades, the conflict permeated the lives of all those who lived in Northern Ireland. Ultimately, this then bled out into the artistic expression of the region. Northern Ireland does have a long history of public art, particularly of murals, which have long formed a part of Protestant Unionist communities, with murals showing their political allegiance visible through symbols like that of William of Orange or the Battle of the Boyne. However, as the Troubles kicked off, these murals began to be seen in more Catholic nationalist areas as well. And whilst at first these were used to commemorate hunger strikers, both sides quickly began to use them to mark territory, express political allegiance, and honour martyrdom or political sacrifice. As I continued to research these murals during the Troubles, I also looked into other forms of public art, and this manifested itself in propaganda posters, which generally came from the nationalist side and seemed quite effective in trying to garner support and increase suspicion. Then I thought, looking at the context of this public art being used in a post-conflict community, I researched how public art was used after the conflict, particularly how it's used to express these wounds within Northern Ireland and also to bring about reconciliation between the two communities. So a really moving piece that I looked at was Hands Across the Divide. This is a sculpture of 2 people coming from either side of the conflict, reaching out across a bridge towards one another. And this bridge in itself was important as it is placed above the Craigavon Bridge, which symbolised the divide between communities during the conflict, with the Catholic Nationalists generally living on one side of the river and the Protestant Unionists generally living on the other side of the river. So through this piece of artwork, the desire to reconcile these differences and reach out across and bridge the gap is very emotively demonstrated. And this piece then influenced another piece of public art which I looked at, which was the Peace Bridge, which again crosses the river, joining the two communities, both physically and kind of bridging the political gap as well. I found that as Northern Ireland entered the 2010s, this progression of public art into moving away from art that focused on the Troubles and instead looking towards the future became more prominent. An example being Belfast's Rise sculpture, which symbolises a new sun for the region, a new dawn breaking. Then, as I looked into more recent times, I ended up circling back to murals once again. And I saw how the mural tradition is still alive and well in Northern Ireland. There are a number of festivals that take place annually to keep this tradition alive, and murals are now used to regenerate areas which may have been connected to the conflict and the violence, giving these areas a new lease of life, and thus showing how public art can be used for regeneration. These murals generally are now used to kind of shift the narrative, looking at cultural achievements or looking back at history, which goes further than the Troubles, and recognising that this is not all that Northern Ireland has had to offer historically. So examples of these murals which commemorate cultural achievements could be the mural which celebrates the hit show Derry Girls, or there is one in Belfast which celebrates the Oscar-winning short film An Irish Goodbye. There are also ones looking at Fontaine's DC, or historic ones, which, for example, one which commemorates Amelia Earhart's landing in Derry on her trip across the Atlantic. She was trying to be the first female pilot to cross the Atlantic by plane and unintentionally ended up landing in Derry. So it's a way of looking at perhaps more peaceful or happier aspects of Northern Ireland's history and showing that the conflict is not all that this region should be known for. So in doing this research, my main takeaways became that art can be a really effective tool for changing the narrative of a place, shifting the focus and recognising or celebrating the achievements of the people that come from post-conflict communities. And although there is still much to be done in bridging the divide between communities in Northern Ireland, I think that art will continue to play a role in building a future where people from the area can feel really proud of where they come from, and internationally Northern Ireland can be recognised for all of the great things that come from it beyond the conflict. So keeping all this in mind, I think that Northern Ireland is a really useful example in the healing powers of public art and moving forwards away from conflict. And yeah, I think it's just a really, really interesting case study. I hope that you've enjoyed learning about it. I know that I certainly have. Thank you for listening to this podcast.